Hey guys, my name is Pansy and welcome to my BDO tier list for Season 2 PVE early game. In this video, I'm going to try to rank all the classes based on their early game performance. The reason is, in BDO seasonals, the early game is what determines how quickly you can progress, because all these spots where you're grinding for Tubala ore or time-filled stones, it's all early game spots where you're one-shotting the mobs and going from pack to pack very quickly. So certain classes excel at that compared to others. So in this video, I'm going to break it down purely based on my opinion. So remember guys, this is not hard and fast rule saying that one class is better than the other, and your opinions might be different. So just drop them down in the comment section below, build your own tier list, and just put it down there in the comments, and we can talk about it, and maybe for season 3 we can take it into account. Before we begin, please do like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Follow me on twitch.tv/I'mPansy. I stream every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, and on YouTube as well, so subscribe here, and I hope to see you guys there sometime. Alright, let's get started. So, like I said, this is going to determine early game only. That means which class gets the advantage in terms of early game spots where, for example, Polys, Fatus, Desert Fogans, Nagas, these places where you're one-shotting pack to pack and going very quickly between them. So certain classes aren't going to be as good because they might be more viable in endgame to endgame spots where you're standing still and spending about 15 seconds attacking a pack of mobs or something like that. So it's a very different dynamic. So certain classes like Musa and Maewha, they're much more mobile than, for example, a Shai. A Shai is actually a pretty strong grinder at endgame. However, pack-to-pack mobility, not so much. So anyway, let's get started over here. I think we'll start off with, let's just go ahead and start with the Archer. I think that's a good one to start with. So the thing about the Archer is I actually spoke to a few Archers so far, and the common agreement I get from all of them is their stamina is an issue. It's a great class, very fluid, very mobile, feels good to play, very fun. I think it's a solid class to pick, and I think it's a solid mid-tier class in early game just because of the stamina issue. When you're going so quickly from pack to pack, you tend to run out of stamina very quickly. Compare it to a class like Mystic, we have 3 free charges, or 3 free flash steps, which is our dash, without any stamina consumption. Once we go over those 3, it starts consuming stamina, so I can definitely understand that that can be something that holds you back in a very quick grind, but I think it's a solid class. If you guys want to play a really powerful and fast range class, I think it's a very solid pick. I'd put it in A tier, and I think that's a good place to start off, and that would be something that could definitely go to A plus if you're a really strong player, if you're very geared, or if you have a high breath level to make up for the stamina loss. And this is one of those things you can't really say it's a solid mid tier. Certain classes are better. Individual skill definitely plays a factor, but this is just my unbiased opinion and the rank I think that it's suited for. Alright, next up is the Berserker. So the Berserker is an amazing class. In terms of early game, it's decent. Late game, it's decent. In 1v1, it's very skill based, but it's a decent class. Large scale, it's great. It's an all-round good class for the game. Only thing is, it's a very clunky playstyle to pick up. Once you get good at it, it's really fast paced, and you can move really well with a Berserker. It's just that early on, for a new player of the game, I think it would be a difficult one. So in terms of its PvE clear, it's not that bad, but there are classes which are better. I think Berserker's a bit better off late game compared to what I'm going to put it at, but I'm going to put it at a B plus just because for an early game standpoint, for a new player who's picking up the game, I'd want to just put it there. I could put it in A, but just because of the skill ceiling required for it to be potent, I want to put it at B plus. But just remember, in terms of just pure clear speed, if you're really good, you can, keep up with anyone up here. But yeah, I think I'll keep it in B plus right now. We can change it later on. I'll think about it. But it is a strong class. Only thing is, it takes time for it to be as strong as other classes or, compete with them. For example, a Musa, you can pick up a Musa and be very quick very early on. Berserker, it takes time. So that's the only reason I'm putting it down at B plus instead of A or A plus. And let's move on. Next one in here is the Dark Knight. So the Dark Knight is a special class. When it first came out, it was a monster. It was like a Sorc, Witch, Wizard, and a Ranger all in one god tier class. Since then, it's had multiple nerfs. So the thing about it is, the Awakening is actually really well suited for early game gameplay. It has instant cast abilities, very long range, nice damage spread. I think it's a solid class. And then when you have the Succession for endgame, it's better off because it was developed a lot more recently, right? So they've taken into account the requirements a class needs for endgame grinding. So early game, I would definitely say Awakening's a solid pick. Late game, I think Succession's a very decent class as well. So I want to put it at A+, but just because it is a bit behind other classes in terms of damage for Awakening early on, I think I'd put it at A. I think it's a solid mid-tier pick. Now, it's definitely debatable. I've met some very skilled Dark Knights who can make it shine at A+ or even S rank for seasonal. But let's just take into account that this was nerfed quite a bit and other classes are just better off compared to it. We'll come back to it in case I change my mind. So for now, let's put it at A rank. Alright, next on the list is Guardian. S rank, easy. Alright, at least we should talk about this a little bit. The reason why a Guardian is so dominant and why it's considered overtuned for PvE in general, in early game and late game. The thing is, all of her skills hit hard, like it is a hard hitting class. And it's considered an easier class because for her Awakening, she has one of the most powerful Awakenings. If you look at most classes, their Successions outshine the Awakening because, the Succession was developed more recently and they've taken into account the late game spots, whereas Awakenings were developed a long time ago and the game was a much different game back then. So Guardian's Awakening is a better grinding spec compared to her Succession. Succession's still a strong spec, strong grinder and everything, but Guardian's Awakening is where it's at. I think she's S tier just because she has so much damage. She has great AoEs, decent mobility, not bad. I mean, her skill effects are slow, but in grinding wise, she's really good. PvP, no, she's like not near the top tier at all, but that's only for 1v1s, by the way. But anyway, S tier. I think it's a solid S tier. I think many people will agree with that, and I think that's a good place for her for now. Hopefully they'll, look back into her Awakening kit and we can see some change there. But all right, let's move on. All right, now I want to do the Kuno and the Ninja. Now both of them are actually quite similar in terms of their Succession. There are the variations in terms of what skills they are, but by similar I mean their playstyle. So, Awakening wise, I think both of them are in a good place now that they have Succession, especially for a Ninja. The Awakening was not that good for PvE. It was very clunky in my opinion. Some people say it was very smooth, but I don't agree. I think it was a clunky spec, and honestly, the Succession's actually really good. Now, the thing about Succession though is you need a lot of skill points in order for it to be good. So, early game, after you have the right amount of skill points and you can switch to Succession, I think both Kuno and Ninja are decent. Like, actually, Kuno's Awakening is actually really good for early game, no doubt. However, I just think other classes are better in terms of early game grinding. Kuno, she can definitely be a A tier. I think that you can put her at A tier and people will agree that her Awakening can keep up and is a good grinding spec for early game. Ninja, however, I think he needs Succession in order to be, competitive with all the other classes. And just for that, I think I'll just put him at B+. If you're Succession Ninja, you can definitely be A. And if you're a really skilled Succession Ninja with a lot of gear, A+. Absolutely. You can definitely, with both classes, get up there. But just on paper, depending on what you can do early on, right as the season starts, I think Ninja's a bit underwhelming at that point. after a few weeks and after you have over like 1700 skill points, you can definitely go up the tier. But early on, I think Ninja, I'll put him at B+. I know a lot of people will disagree because Succession is so beautiful, but for now, I think I'm going to put it there, and that's my reasoning. If you guys disagree, just put it in the chat below, and you know, next video, next time we do this, we can make some adjustments accordingly. Next up is Lahn. So Lahn is a phenomenal grinder when you use Succession, and in endgame, it's actually really nice. Decent damage, a lot of super armors, a very solid class. I would put her at A+ just because I think in terms of just power, I think she's on par with the other A tier classes. I don't think she's much stronger, but just because her mobility with the flying, she can do a lot more wonky things than other classes. She can do rotations which aren't really viable for other classes. So just because of that unique aspect of her, I'll put her at one tier above the others. But in terms of power, I think, you know, I think she does just as good as any of the other classes. It's just that one little factor which puts her a little bit ahead. Now, it can be said that she can be in an A rank, that's for sure. But once again, this all depends on the individual, how well you play and how well you utilize your class. With the addition of that mechanic of hers, I think she has that one little thing that can push her above. Definitely not an S tier class. I think the two classes which are coming up for that, they're at a whole different level, so I'll put her up there. Musa and Maewha, they have the best mobility for the early game grind spots. I think pack-to-pack mobility, they are number 1 and 2. Only thing is Musa's AoEs in Awakening are way better than Maewha, but I don't think that's enough to stop her. I think we can safely put her up there at S tier as well, but only for the pack-to-pack mobility in early game. Once you start looking at the damage, once you start taking her to mid and late tier game, I think she falls lower and lower very quickly. But just for the sake of seasonal early game, I'm gonna just book her with with Musa, and I think that's an okay decision. Yeah, personally, I'd say she's like an 8 class, but just because her pack-to-pack mobility is so good and it's so important in seasonal, I'll go ahead and put her up at S. You know, in terms of power, she's not there, but you know, this is only for the seasonals. I think we can get away with popping her up with a Musa. Next up, Ranger. So I think Ranger is in the same boat as an Archer. Only thing is that with Succession, her damage with the Descending Current is insane. I'll put her at A+, just because the amount of area you can cover with a Descending Current is just phenomenal. I think that just puts her at a cut above an Archer just because of the amount of mobs you can hit, and because it is the early game areas, you can destroy those mobs with Descending Current. Awakening is also a very quick grinder. It's very fast, pack to pack. Not as good as Musa and Maewha, obviously, but you know, you have the option of using your range as well to hit packs far away, or you know, shotgun's like really strong even in Awakening. So I think A+ is a good spot for a Ranger. Next up is Striker and Mystic. So for Striker and Mystic, it's a bit different between the two of them. Both of them are quite mobile, Mystic more so. I think Mystic is quicker, I think her skills are faster, and in early game, she just has that little bit of an edge over a Striker. Now in late game, Striker's damage is considerably better than Mystic for close range end game spots. Like for example, when you group up all the mobs in one spot, I think in places like Stars and Sakraya, Striker is just phenomenal. So in early game, I'll just put the Mystic a little bit above them, above the Striker. But in late game, I think Striker will take the win. So yeah, I don't know. Like, thing is, Awakening Striker does have decent AoEs, spammable AoEs. So it is an option to keep him up there, but I am playing an Awakening Striker right now. I don't feel it to be as fluid. Like pack to pack, I think my Mystic is just, you know, so much better than him. So Mystic, I'm gonna put her at A+, and Striker at A. Now Mystic could go down to A as well, but the thing is, early on, very quickly, she becomes a very quick grinder. With her awakening with very minimal skill points, she starts obliterating early game packs. Along with that, she has like great sustain, great PvE 1v1 capabilities, and all around, she's decent in early game, but she transitions to late game so well because of her sustain, her tankiness, and only because of her future capabilities, her 1v1 capabilities, and coupling in everything together, I think she is a cut above the rest. Her sustain is just really good. As a awakening mystic, and as succession, her damage is really quick and really fast. So early game, I think mystic will take A plus, and she probably maintain that spot in late game as well. Striker, he'll go from A all the way to, you know, a potential S in terms of certain spots. For example, Sakurai and Star's End, very good, but in other spots, not so good. So I think he'll be a proper A plus in late game as well. So I think this is an okay to. I don't know if I'm being biased because I play Mystic, but it's just that I know her potential is really good. So I think this is an okay spot to keep it, but let's move on. All right, next the little mages, Witch and Wizard. So, with Witch and Wizard, obviously they are the babies of Pearl Abyss. They have always been good, always will be good, and they are always a strong class. In Awakening, both of them have very good damage spread. Wizard, pack to pack, he has decent AoEs, and as Succession, phenomenal, very powerful class, very good grinder. And you know, I think Witch, her range in Awakening early on, really nice. Her damage really nice, and I think she's just a solid grinder. I think you can't go wrong with her. The sustain, the damage, the potential at end game, very good. So I think both of them, they deserve to be at an S tier. In terms of if you compare them to a Musa and Maewha, I think yeah, you can bump them down to A, but you know they have their own capabilities which set them apart from the rest, and I think that you can get away with keeping them all the way up there. I've met some very skilled witch and wizards who can shut down a guardian in terms of grind speed. So it's really skill based, it's really individual based. So yeah, the argument can be made that they go down one tier or, you know, stay at S tier, but for now we'll keep them at S tier, and then maybe at the end we can reassess all the classes and just see where we want to keep them as a final stage. So all right. Now we got Sorc. Oh, Sorc. Amazing class, amazing class. Like Succession and Awakening, both very good grinders, very strong class. Only thing, I think early game in terms of speed, in terms of the capabilities of other classes, I think she can be S class, but I'm gonna keep her at A plus. Now, the thing about Guardian is the reason she's A plus or she's S rank is because of her ease of play. She's so easy, so much damage. One button, boom, everything dies. I think Sorc requires more skill. I think Sorc is a higher APM class compared to a Guardian, and it's right there. It's right before being an S tier. So I'm gonna keep her at A plus for now, and yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Now, of course, in late game, she's S tier. She's a very powerful class. PvP, very powerful class. Just a great class all around. But right now, for early game, seasonal, A plus. Oh, now we got Tamer. Tamer's a weird one, guys. Like, the thing is, Tamer has some very interesting things about her. Her dog can gain aggro, so she can pull like more mobs in her pack. But the thing is, when you're in seasonals and everyone's just cutting through everyone's grind spots, like you're not really pulling mobs. You're going from pack to pack, obliterating things, and no one follows rotations because you can't flag up in the seasonal servers, right? So yeah, Tamer, I think if there's any good Tamers out there, if you want to argue if she can go into like A or A plus or whatever, please do let me know. I want to hear it. I know she's a high APM class. In terms of ease of play, I think a Descending Current from a Ranger greatly outshines what you can do with a Tamer. But, you know, let me know, guys, what you think. For now, I'm going to put her at B+, just because the requirement to play her effectively really falls short of the other classes. Like, compared to a guardian or a witch or wizard, she needs to work harder, hands down. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Valkyrie and warrior. So this is like a very contested ranking, because a Valkyrie very powerful in 1v1. In 1v1, if you say Kuno and Ninja are the gods and goddess or of the 1v1 scene, she's right behind them. She's right there behind them. She's really close behind him because her shield block is like the best block in the game. Her mobility, decent. Her damage, crazy. And she just has so much utility along with her mobility and damage at endgame. I think like she can do really well. So Valk, if I had to put her in like a 1v1 ranking, she'd be really high up there. But for PVE, I'd put her at A rank. Just because her awakening is a really good grinding specialization. Once upon a time, she was in the top tier. Of course, Succession really pushed everyone out from the former ranking. So I think she's a solid A tier, solid pick. And once you get to late game, once you get to like Star's End, she's really strong. She'd go up in rank. So yeah. Now for Warrior, I think he's also there with her, but I think his Succession's a little bit better. I think it's just a little bit better than the Valkyrie. I think that he has really good awakening playstyle. It's very easy. It's very simple and straightforward. I think I'd put him at A+, just because he's that a little bit easier. When you compare it to Valkyrie's awakening, she needs a lot of animation cancels to be like really good. To bring out her full potential, you need to animation cancel with her very well. Whereas a warrior, not so much. You just need high FPS. So yeah. Shai and Hashasin are the last two classes. Hashasin, we don't have him out yet, but from what I've played in Global Labs, I think he's a very fluid class, very mobile, great AoEs, great protection. I think we can put him up there at S tier for this season until we see him in action here on NA. I think it's great to assume that he's going to be top tier. He's going to be an amazing grinder. So everyone who's looking forward to it, you know, rightfully so. So am I. So we're going to keep him up there at S rank. And in the future, we'll reassess it. But for now, that's my assumption, since it's not released yet. From what I've seen from other players, other videos, and from what I've experienced on Global Labs, I think he can be a solid S tier. Last of all, it's I don't even want to talk about Shai's. Oh my god. Shai. I'm putting her at B tier just because of this. In endgame, she's a very good grinder. She's really phenomenal. She can go to grind spots well before the recommended APDP. Now, the only issue is her pack-to-pack mobility compared to every single other class is a bit less. It's a bit lacking compared to pretty much everything else. That's the only reason I'm putting her down here at B. Mobility is so important in seasonal servers because you're competing with so many people at a grind spot. Nobody gives a dang about your grind spot or your rotation. Everyone just cuts through. So to compete with the others, speed is definitely a factor. And for that, I think Shai is bottom of the barrel for that. My apologies to all you Shai players. I know she's a phenomenal class for late game. She's definitely a top tier class then, but right now in seasonal, I think she needs to, you know, she's a solid B tier. But yeah, now let's take a moment to reassess all the classes. So for B tier, we have the Shai. I just explained why, and I think that's fine. For B+, we have the Ninja and the Tamer and Berserker. Ninja can definitely with Succession be an A tier class, 100%. The only reason I'm keeping him down here is because in order for Succession to be like viable, you need a lot of skill points, and honestly, it's a high APM class. It is a class which requires a lot of skill. In terms of grinding, other classes just do it better with a lot less effort. Kuno's one step above him just because her awakening has such good AoE. Definitely is one step ahead of Ninja in early game. In late game, however, both of them are neck and neck in terms of Succession viability, and I think Ninja's a little bit better. But that's not speaking from experience, so all you Ninja and Kuno players out there, if you want to dispute it, please drop it in the comments below. I want to hear about it. Now looking at A tier, we got the Archer. Due to the stamina constraints, we kept him here. Now, Ranger also has stamina issue, but her descending current is so big. Like, the range of it and the spread of it is so huge that I think she's a bit better off than Archer in that sense. Now, moving pack to pack, sure, she's not as quick, but I think that's just a unique factor about her that can put her above like other classes, because the range of the descending current is just nonsense. You can be on top of a cliff and just descend in current down. So Dark Knight, very good class, very good class. You can put her at A plus if you're really skilled. It's just that like Awakening is not very good at late game, whereas Succession is very good, but compared to other classes, I think it's a solid class. I don't think it's like so much better than any other class out there. I think it's on par with quite a few, but behind a lot of classes as well. It's a really good spec. If you guys want to play Dark Knight, play it. Trust me, Awakening and Succession, they have their places right now in seasonal servers, so don't hesitate to give it a shot. Now, Striker we have here because he's just a little bit less mobile than Mystic. His AoEs compared to Mystic is is pretty good, except he feels a bit slower. I'm playing a Striker right now, and I'm playing Mystic as well. Both the Awakening and the Succession, I think Mystic is quicker. Now, Striker feels like he has a lot more damage comparatively, but I think Mystic is just a little bit better early game. So that's why she's A plus and he's at A. Valkyrie and Warrior, once again, I think Valkyrie's Awakening, you need a lot more APM, a lot more animation cancel, a lot more skill involved. So I think I'm going to put her at a solid A tier, and with Succession, she can be competing with the S tier classes in certain spots, especially like Star's End. So don't count her out if you want to play a Valkyrie and you're thinking about it. Solid class. 1v1, she is a definite beast. Like, she's right behind Kuno and Ninja. Very powerful class. With enough skill, I think you can take on any class and come out on top. Now, for A+, all of these classes here are, a little bit special. Like, for example, Lahn, she has her additional mobility with her gliding, and her Succession's really good. Good damage, good super armor, and, pack to pack, I think she does really well. And just because she has that additional flying ability or gliding ability, she can do just a little bit better than other classes because she has the option of odd rotations. And in seasonal, when it's so packed, it's really nice to be able to go to places that other people can't follow so easily. So I think Lahn deserves that A plus ranking. Let me know in the comments if you guys think that's overstating her power, but yeah. And Ranger, Descending Current can't be counted out, especially when it's crowded. When it's crowded and there's a Ranger standing in the middle and just being an absolute gun turret, just firing Descending Current and then going to the next big area, I think she can do a lot of work. So I know the pack to pack for her is a bit strained, so you could drop her down to A plus or to A rank, and I think people would agree with that. But just because of her unique ability with the Descending Current and Succession, and also when you're going with Awakening, it's a really solid grinder. Decent AoEs, nice range with her shotgun, and nice damage spread. I think she's a good grinder. I think she's a solid A plus. We'll have to go down to the statistics to see if she can pull the same amount of trash loot as the others, but I think it's safe to say she deserves her spot there. Now, Mystic, we've already talked about her. Pack to pack, great. Really good early game grinding, really good late game grinding, really great sustained tankiness. Her Succession is really powerful. Her Awakening's also powerful late game. Succession's a little bit more damage in my opinion, but I think she's a solid A plus, just because she's such a complete class. There's so much good things about her, like her mobility is good, sustain, damage, tankiness. I don't think there's anything I can say she's bad at. I mean, I don't think there's many cons to her, and she's just less of a threat compared to other classes at late game. Now, when you compare her to Guardian, I think she can obliterate a Guardian in early game grinding, but just because Guardian is so much damage for so little effort, I'm putting Guardian at S tier, whereas a Mystic's A plus. Now we got Sorc. Sorc is with Succession and Awakening, definitely good specs. Very solid grinder. She's just a little bit weaker than the others. I think you can put her in A rank, but the thing is, when you're really skilled, she has a high skill ceiling. So when you're really skilled, you can bring her up to the ranks of the other classes, no problem. So A plus for her. Now late game, I think we can put her up in close to S rank, but for early game, A plus. Warrior, very easy to play, very good mobility pack to pack. Awakening's good, Succession's good. Can be very tanky and can sustain himself pretty decently with Succession. But overall, I think he's a solid class. I think he has very good grinding potential early game and late, but he's a bit more viable than a Valkyrie early game only because he's easier to play. I think he's much easier than a Valkyrie. Valkyrie, I feel, in 1v1, obviously, both are really high skill tier classes. And pack-to-pack mobility in the early game, I think he'd do better than a Valk. Now for the S tier, Guardian, hands down. I don't think anyone can argue. Hashasin, I think we all can agree that he's going to be strong. He's going to be OP. Pearl Abyss makes their new classes really strong because it makes everyone want to play them. They hype it up, and they're usually overtuned and later get balanced down. It is a business thing, but we can't really complain because they give us so many classes and so many options. I think it's a good thing that they keep coming out with new classes. So Hashasin the Sand Ninja, I think he's S tier. Musa Maewha only because she has a pack-to-pack mobility, which is insane. Very quick, very fast, only because of that. And since her AoEs aren't that great in terms of the shapes of their AoEs, I think it would be safe to say she can go down to A+, but her pack-to-pack mobility is so huge. I think just that alone will keep her on par with the other classes, but she has more effort. I think she'd be the weakest of the S tiers, but yeah, I know. I'm sure most of you will be thinking, yeah, she does have good speed, but compared to the other S tiers, she would be a step down. But I think at the same time, she's a step above these guys because her speed is so insane. I mean, trying to outgrind her with these classes, it would be tough to keep up. Witch and Wizard, they're great classes. Awakening, Succession, all of those specs have their place. I think we forgot to talk about Musa, but we don't need to. He's a speed king. So Witch and Wizard, I think both have really good, strong successions for late game. Early game, their Awakening does great. Completely all-around class is sustain. Decent mobility with the teleport, but excellent range with their spells. For Wizards, it's more like AoE around him, whereas the Witches are further outwards. But I think both of them are solid classes. I think no one can argue with keeping them at S tier. So yeah, I think this is it, guys. I don't know. What do you guys think? I think there can be a lot of arguments because the thing is, a lot of these classes are quite close together. If I had to just put like 3 rankings, S, A, and B, majority of them will be obviously in the A rank because there's so few classes which are bad. I mean, this game in terms of balance is not very good for PvP, but for PvE, their mid-tier pack, like a lot of classes are there. There are some outliers which I don't know how they get past the balance patches, but for the most part, I think a lot of classes are viable. I can't say that a lot of classes are stupidly strong or something, but a lot of classes can be played. You can pick any class here and have a good time, like in early game. So, except Shy. Screw Shy. Kidding. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think about this video, what you think about the tier list. Let me see your tier list down below in the comments section. And yeah, check out my Discord channel. It'll be in the description down below. And please do like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on twitch.tv/I'mPansy. I stream every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. And I know this is purely based on my opinion, so please do go easy on me, guys, and let me know what you guys think. I'd love to hear from you. Join us on Discord. The community's been growing quite well, and it's been popping, so I'd love to see you guys there. Anyway, take it easy, guys. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, I hope this helped.